Y'all, get in here right now, because I just stumbled into something that has me sitting up straight at my desk like somebody poured cold water down my spine. Tasha K is not just losing this lawsuit. Tasha K is about to lose her entire empire. Her YouTube channel, her trademark, her LLC, her bank accounts, her name, her brand, her face on the internet. All of it. Gone. Transferred. Liquidated. Auctioned off to the highest bidder while she sits in the cheap seats and watches Cardi B sign the receipt. And the wildest part, the part that has my whole jaw on the floor, is that Tasha K did this to herself. Every single move she made trying to outsmart this woman became the evidence that's now about to bury her. Every shell company, every name change, every account she scrubbed her name off of, every property she slid into her husband's name in the middle of the night, every fake sale, every paper trail she thought she covered. Cardi B's lawyers picked all of it up like breadcrumbs and walked themselves straight to the front door of everything Tasha K owns. So buckle in. Actually, scratch that, don't buckle in, just listen. Because what I'm about to walk you through is the most insane self-snitching spiral I have ever seen in a defamation case. And you are not going to believe how far this woman dug her own grave with a shovel she paid for on Amazon Prime. Now let me say what I always say. I am not a lawyer. I do not pretend to be a lawyer. I do not play one on the internet. But I have eyes, I have a brain, I have a calculator, and I have spent the last 48 hours watching 3 different attorneys break this filing down line by line. And what I'm telling you tonight is the cleaned up version of what they all keep circling back to. Cardi B did not file a sequel lawsuit. Cardi B filed a finishing move. This is the part of the movie where the villain thinks she's gotten away with it. She's at the airport with a fake passport, and then the camera pans down, and you see the GPS tracker tucked inside her own suitcase. That's where we are. That is exactly where we are. If you don't know how we got here, let me catch you up in 30 seconds, because some of y'all just walked in. Years ago, Tasha K spent months and months and months posting some of the most vile, made-up, indefensible nonsense you have ever heard about Cardi B: drugs, diseases, her body, her child, her marriage, things no human being should have to wake up and read about themselves. Cardi sued. Cardi won. The jury came back and said you owe this woman roughly $4 million and a public apology, and they handed Cardi a judgment with her name on it like a winning lottery ticket. And what did Tasha K do? Did she pay? Did she shut up? Did she go on a long vacation, touch some grass, find Jesus, take up pottery? No, she did the exact opposite. She went straight back to her camera, propped her phone up on a stack of unpaid invoices, and kept right on talking. And every word she spoke after that verdict was Cardi B's lawyers pulling out a yellow highlighter and going to work. But the talking is not what's about to end her. The talking is the appetizer. The main course, the thing that has Tasha K about to lose her entire identity on the internet, is the money. Or, more accurately, the way she tried to hide the money. Because here is what I did not understand until this week, and I have a feeling most of you didn't understand it either. When a judgment lands on you, you do not get to play musical chairs with your assets. You do not get to suddenly remember that your husband should be on the deed instead of you. You do not get to dissolve your LLC on a Tuesday and open a brand new one on a Thursday with the same logo, the same employees, the same clients, the same camera angle, and pretend it's a completely different company that just happens to be wearing your old company's skin. That is not a clever business move. That is a felony with a different font. And that, right there, is the entire spine of the new lawsuit. Cardi's legal team is not just asking the court to enforce the old judgment. They are asking the court to do something much, much scarier. They are asking the court to pierce the corporate veil. Now I want you to sit with that phrase for a second. Pierce the corporate veil. It sounds like a fantasy novel, doesn't it? It sounds like a spell from a wizard with a long beard. But in real life, it is one of the most brutal weapons a civil court has in its arsenal. And it is the legal equivalent of taking a person's company, ripping off the mask, and saying we don't see a business here. We just see you wearing a suit. Once that veil gets pierced, every protection an LLC was supposed to give you evaporates into thin air. Suddenly your business debts are your personal debts. Your business assets are your personal assets. Your business mistakes are your personal nightmares. And anything you tried to tuck behind that corporate wall, the trademark, the channel, the merch line, the website, the URL, the bank accounts, the equipment, all of it, walks out from behind the curtain and stands there naked in front of the judge. So how do you get a judge to pierce the veil? You have to prove a few things, and this is where Cardi's filing is so surgical it almost feels mean. First, you have to show that the owner was treating the company like a personal piggy bank, that the LLC had no real independent existence, that the money flowed in and out of personal accounts like there was no wall there at all, that the so-called business was really just one person and her husband running a Venmo with a logo on it. And second, You have to show that the corporate form was being used to commit fraud or to dodge a legal obligation. Like, oh, I don't know, hypothetically, a $4 million judgment from a woman named Belcalis. And third, in the deluxe edition of this lawsuit, they are also alleging civil conspiracy, which is the legal way of saying these two people sat at a kitchen table and cooked up a plan together to make sure Cardi B never saw a dime of what she was owed. 3 ingredients. 3 checkboxes. And from where I'm sitting, Cardi's team did not just check those boxes, they laminated them. Let me walk you through how. Because this is the part where I went, oh no. So apparently, according to the filings, the original company was called Kebe Studios. That was the LLC that took the hit on the original defamation judgment. The court ruled Kebe Studios was on the hook, and Cardi B had every legal right in the world to start collecting from that entity. What happened next? Kebe Studios suddenly, mysteriously, conveniently, just kind of, evaporated. Dissolved. Closed up shop. No assets left inside. Nothing to collect. The bank account looked like somebody had taken a leaf blower to it. Empty. Gone. Bye-bye. And in its place, almost overnight, a brand new entity appeared. Different name. Same everything else. Same clients. Same channel. Same desk. Same lighting setup. Same husband running the back end. Same content. Same revenue streams. Then that one had a name change too. And then another one. Yelling something. Stash Media. I keep losing track of the names because there are so many, and that is the entire point. If you change your name 3 times in 18 months, you are not running a business. You are running from a process server. And here is the line in Cardi's petition that, when I read it out loud, actually made me laugh because of how clean it is. The filing says, in essence, the new LLC stepped directly into Kebe Studios' shoes in every operational aspect. It assumed management of the same social media platforms. It served the same clients. It performed the same services. There were no gaps in operations. There were no gaps in operations. Read that line again. There were no gaps in operations. The camera never even turned off. The light on the front of the lens didn't blink. One day you were Kebe, the next day you were something else, and not a single subscriber noticed because nothing actually changed except the label on the bank account that Cardi B was about to garnish. That is not a business sale. That is a magic trick. And magic tricks only work on people who don't already know where the rabbit lives. Now you might be sitting there going, well, can't you sell a company? Don't people sell businesses all the time? Yes, of course they do. But here is the catch that I had to learn this week, and I want you to write this down because it is going to come up in your group chat. When you sell an asset, you have to sell it for market value. You cannot sell a profitable, monetized YouTube channel and brand with millions of views and an established audience for, like, $3 and a sandwich. You also cannot just hand it over to a relative as a gift in the middle of an active judgment without raising every red flag known to the legal system. The court will look at that transaction, hold it up to the light, and go, oh, this is a fraudulent transfer. Because if the company had any real value, the sale should have generated money. And if it generated money, that money should have been available to satisfy the existing judgment. There is a concept lawyers use called consideration, which basically means, what did the buyer give in exchange? And if the answer is nothing, or pocket change, or vibes, then the whole thing is a costume and the court is allowed to rip it off. Also, and this is the kicker, when they took the deposition, when they put Tasha K and her husband under oath and asked the most basic questions in the world, like, do you have a written contract for any of these transfers? Do you have any management agreement that documents the transition between the old company and the new one? Can you point me to a single piece of paper that proves this was a legitimate arm's-length sale? The answer was a long, awkward silence followed by, well, no, not. Really, not a single written term. Not one. They couldn't produce one document. Because there was no real sale. There was just 2 people in a kitchen deciding to rename the goose to keep the eggs. And then, then we get to the personal accounts. This is the part of the filing that, I swear, reads like a recipe for getting yourself sued into another tax bracket. According to the new petition, after the judgment came down, Tasha K's husband removed her name from a Bank of America account. The same Bank of America account, mind you, that her paychecks were going into. The same Bank of America account that Cardi B had already, at one earlier point, been able to reach into and pull about $5,000 or $6,000 from to start collecting on her judgment, because at that time, Tasha's name and social security number were still attached to it. So what happened? After Cardi successfully pulled funds from it, the husband, under oath, in a deposition, in front of a court reporter, admitted he removed Tasha K's name from that account specifically to avoid garnishment. He said the word. He used the word. Avoid garnishment. He didn't say to streamline our finances. He didn't say to consolidate our accounts for tax purposes. He said to avoid garnishment. Sir, you are reading the prosecution's closing argument out loud, and you don't even realize it. Then it gets worse. Then it gets so much worse. The filing also says that Tasha K asked her husband to stop paying her directly from the LLC account. Why? To avoid garnishment. And he complied. Under oath. He admitted he stopped paying her from the company account so that her income wouldn't be visible, so that the river of money she was earning could keep flowing, just through a different pipe with somebody else's name on it. And the entire time, the channel kept uploading. The merch kept selling. The brand kept building. The empire kept humming. Just none of it, on paper, was technically hers anymore. According to the paperwork, Tasha K was suddenly a humble employee of her own life. And then, we get to the house. Y'all, the house. About a month after the original defamation judgment came down, the residential real estate property in Georgia, the one she owned, the one that had her name on the deed, got transferred. To whom? To her husband. Just slid right over like a basket of laundry. And when the lawyers asked, in deposition, why did you not reverse this transfer once you realized it was being used as evidence in a fraud claim? The husband, again, under oath, said, and I am paraphrasing only slightly here, I wanted to help her avoid garnishment. He said it. He said the quiet part out loud. He said it with his whole chest. And when they asked him directly, were you trying to help her avoid paying Cardi B? He said yes. Yes. He said yes. There was no clarification. No. Well, it was complicated. No, you misunderstood. Just yes. I have to assume the lawyer on his side of the table was internally screaming so loudly that the court reporter could feel it through the floor. This is the part where I have to stop and say something, because some of y'all in the comments are going to ask. You're going to type, well, if they already admitted to all of this, why didn't Cardi do something about it back then? Why is it just hitting now? Let me explain it the way it was explained to me, in regular people English. When you get a judgment against someone, the criminal-looking parts of how they try to dodge it do not automatically turn into instant consequences. It is not like the floor opens up and swallows them. The judgment holder, in this case Cardi B, has to make a choice. Do I spend another year in another mountain of legal fees building a case to chase the money, or do I take what I can get and walk away? My personal read is that Cardi initially tried to be reasonable about it. Get my money. Get my apology. Move on. Spend my actual life with my actual kids. But then Tasha K didn't stop. The talking didn't stop. The content didn't stop. The signed non-disparagement agreement, that thing got treated like a coupon that expired. And at some point, I have to imagine, Cardi sat down with her legal team and said, you know what? Fine. You want to keep playing? We're going to flip the entire table. And flipping the table is exactly what this new filing does. Because remember, in the original case, Cardi's lawyers had already collected the receipts, the deposition admissions, the bank account screenshots, the Georgia property transfer, the email trails, the dissolved and reborn LLC. All of it was already sitting in a folder. They didn't have to go discover anything new. They already had it. They just hadn't pulled the trigger on it yet. This new lawsuit is them pulling that trigger. And the bullet is aimed at every single thing Tasha K owns. Now let's talk about what she actually stands to lose, because this is where my eyes started watering on her behalf, and I do not even like her. If the court agrees with Cardi's team on veil-piercing and civil conspiracy, the court can order that all of those carefully labeled assets are not separate from Tasha K personally, which means the trademark, gone. The Unwind with Tasha K brand, gone. The website with the URL that bears her name, gone. The YouTube channel itself, gone. The bank accounts attached to the LLC, gone. The merch revenue stream, gone. Any equipment purchased through the company, gone. And anything in those accounts at the moment the garnishment hits, the sheriff can come and scoop. Cardi B gets her $4 million plus interest plus every dollar in attorney's fees she has racked up trying to make this woman comply, and she gets to walk away with a stack of digital and physical assets that used to be Tasha K's life. The court can also order all future income to be paid into a trust. Tasha K's allowance from her own life would be set by a stranger in a black robe. You make 20 grand a month, you get 20 grand allocated. Cardi gets the rest until the judgment is satisfied. Imagine that. Imagine being told what your own grocery budget is by a court because you couldn't stop typing. And if you're sitting there going, but wait, what is a YouTube channel even worth without the person running it? Let me bring you a name I never thought I'd be saying in a sentence about Tasha K. Alex Jones. Yes, that Alex Jones. The Sandy Hook lot peddler. The man who lost a roughly $1 billion defamation judgment to the families of children who had been murdered and who he had spent years claiming were not real. When that judgment landed, his assets got put into receivership. And do you know who bid on his website and his media operation? The Onion. the satirical newspaper. They bid on it, won it, and the plan was to flip the whole operation into a satire site mocking him forever, with proceeds going to the families. So when people in the chat say, well, a YouTube channel is only worth something if Tasha K is on camera, that is not technically true. That channel name, that subscriber base, that brand recognition, that URL, that handle, those are assets. Someone could buy that brand, run it into the ground for sport, use it as a graveyard, point it at her, dedicate it to making her look ridiculous for the rest of human history, and donate every penny back to Cardi B and her legal fund. Imagine logging onto YouTube one morning and seeing your own channel running a live stream you didn't approve, with somebody else's voice dragging you. That is a possibility on the table here. That is not science fiction. That is precedent. That happened in a courtroom, in real life, to a man with way more money and way more lawyers than Tasha K has. And honestly, this is what makes me shake my head, because none of this had to happen. Let me say that again for the people in the back. None of this had to happen. You lost the case. Okay, people lose cases. That's life. You appeal, you negotiate a payment plan, you live within your means for a few years, you pay the woman, you write your little memoir, you maybe even rebuild your platform with a softer angle. You talk about lessons learned, you do a redemption arc, you get a Netflix doc, you laugh about it on a podcast in 5 years. That entire road was sitting right there, with a green light, with a paved shoulder, with a Starbucks every 6 miles. All she had to do was take it. Instead, she chose the road with the alligators, the swamp, the active volcano, and the sign that says please do not enter. This road has been condemned by the state. And then she floored the gas. And I have to ask, who was advising this woman? Because somebody around her, a cousin, a sister, an aunt, a hairdresser, a mailman, a dog walker, somebody had to look at her and say, ma'am, the woman you keep talking about owns 4 floors of attorneys. She has a legal team that wakes up every morning, drinks coffee from a mug with her face on it, and asks each other, what is Tasha doing today? Because whatever she is doing today is going to become an exhibit in our next motion. Tasha K was running her mouth into a courthouse loudspeaker, and her own husband was holding the microphone for her. There is a level of self-destruction here that requires a small village to enable, and clearly, the village showed up. Now, I want to be fair, because I always try to be fair, even when it is hard. Could there be a defense here? Sure, theoretically. Tasha K's team could argue that the new LLCs were legitimate business reorganizations. They could argue that the asset transfers were planned long before any judgment, even though that is going to be very hard to back up with the dates we already have on the record. They could argue that the bank account changes were innocent housekeeping. They could argue that the husband simply misunderstood the questions in his deposition. But here is the issue. They already answered those questions, under oath, in a way that admitted intent. And once you have admitted intent on the record, you cannot unring that bell. You cannot put that toothpaste back in the tube. You cannot tell the same judge who has the transcript in his hand that the transcript is lying. The defense, as I see it from where I'm sitting, is basically holding a wet paper bag in a hurricane. I also want to address something I keep seeing in the comments, which is people saying, why would Cardi even want a YouTube channel with Tasha's name on it? And I get the instinct. On the surface, it does feel like, what's the point? But that is the wrong question. The right question is, why would Cardi want every asset Tasha K used to mock her, profit off of her, and avoid paying her? And the answer to that question is obvious. Because winning a defamation case is not just about getting paid. It is about being made whole. And being made whole, when someone has spent years using a platform as a weapon against you, sometimes looks like taking the weapon off the table entirely. You don't have to point the gun at anyone if there is no gun. Cardi taking the channel doesn't have to be about running the channel. It can simply be about ensuring it never runs again, or running it just enough to make sure every dollar it ever generates from this day forward goes into the judgment fund. Either outcome works. Either outcome is justice. And let me say one more thing about strategy, because this is the part that the regular news cycles are missing. Cardi B is not just trying to win this lawsuit. She is trying to set an example. She is trying to put a flashing neon sign on the freeway that says, if you spend years lying about me on the internet and then try to hide your assets from the judgment, this is what happens to you. And every other so-called blogger, every other so-called commentator, every other person who thinks the internet is a lawless place where you can say anything about anyone and never face a consequence. Every one of those people is watching this case. They are watching it through their fingers. They are watching it with the volume turned down low. They are checking their LLC paperwork in another tab. Because once the verdict in this Part 2 case lands, if it lands the way it is looking like it is going to land, the precedent will be public, the playbook will be exposed, and the era of consequence-free defamation farming on YouTube is going to take a very, very serious hit. That is the bigger story underneath this story. That is the story I want you to remember when you close this video and walk away. Now, before I let you go, I want to walk through what I think actually happens next, based on every legal commentary I have watched on this and every conversation I have had with people who actually know how civil procedure works. The court is going to set a hearing. The other side is going to file responses. There is going to be motions back and forth. Discovery is going to expand, because now they have to dig into every single bank record, every single transfer, every single piece of correspondence between Tasha K and her husband about how money was moved. There is going to be a trail of subpoenas going to financial institutions, to web hosts, to YouTube directly. YouTube, by the way, is going to receive correspondence from a court about a creator on its platform. They will respond. They have to. That is going to make Tasha K's account a flagged file inside YouTube's legal department, which is a place no creator wants to live. And once the court has all of this information, it is going to make rulings. And those rulings, based on what is already public, are not looking friendly to her. If, and this is a big if, but if Cardi's team wins on veil-piercing and civil conspiracy, the next phase is the collection phase. And the collection phase, in a case like this, is brutal. Sheriffs, court orders, asset seizures, account freezes. Things that move fast. Things that do not wait for appeals. Things that, by the time the appeal even gets heard, have already happened. By the time Tasha K's team can mount any kind of meaningful pushback, the channel could already be in receivership, the accounts could already be frozen, the trademark could already be locked. Reversing that, if it even can be reversed, takes years. And in those years, the brand dies a slow death, because nobody can post on it, nobody can monetize it, nobody can do anything with it. I want to take a quick second to talk about what receivership actually means, because I see a lot of people in the chat using the word, and they are not totally clear on what it does. Receivership is when a court appoints a neutral third party, called a receiver, to take control of an asset or a business while the legal stuff gets sorted out. The receiver runs it. The receiver makes decisions about it. The owner can sit there and watch, but the owner cannot post, cannot withdraw funds, cannot strike a deal, cannot do anything without the receiver signing off. Now imagine your livelihood is a YouTube channel, and one day a stranger appointed by a judge has the password. They decide whether the channel goes live. They decide whether videos go up. They decide whether ad revenue gets paid out, and to whom. They decide whether the merch store stays open. They decide whether your sponsorship deals continue. And while they are deciding all of that, your audience starts moving on, because audiences do not wait. They migrate. Within 6 months, half your subscriber base has wandered off to the next big personality. Within a year, your numbers are a ghost town. By the time, hypothetically, you ever got the channel back, there might not be anything left to come back to. That is the slow-motion version of losing your whole career, and it is the realistic risk on the table here. Let's also talk about the trademark piece, because this part is sneaky, and people are not focused on it enough. Trademarks are not just words. They are not just logos. Trademarks are legal vehicles that let you sell, license, defend, and monetize a brand identity. The Unwind with Tasha K trademark, if it is properly registered, is the only thing legally stopping somebody else from launching a podcast tomorrow with the exact same name and pretending to be the same show. If Cardi B becomes the legal owner of that trademark through this lawsuit, she gets to decide who can use it. She gets to decide whether anybody can use it. She gets to decide what shows under that name look like, what their themes are, what their tone is. She gets to send cease and desist letters in her own name to anyone who tries to revive the brand. She gets to license it, sell it, retire it, or bury it. The brand identity that Tasha K spent years building, the colors, the catchphrases, the visual identity, all of it becomes a wallet inside Cardi's purse. And the most savage part of trademark law is that you cannot just rename your show on the fly and keep going. You build a new brand, you start at zero. New domain, new audience, new everything. Imagine being told that the name you have built for a decade now belongs to your worst enemy, and your only option is to start over with a different name in a different identity that nobody in your audience will recognize. That is a career sentence. And let me talk for a second about the husband, because I keep coming back to him, and I keep being amazed. This man, under oath, in a deposition, with a lawyer of his own sitting next to him, admitted to specific intent on multiple counts. He admitted to moving accounts to avoid garnishment. He admitted to receiving the property transfer for the purpose of helping his wife dodge the judgment. He admitted to changing payroll arrangements specifically so income would not be visible. Each of those admissions is a brick in the wall of Cardi's case. Each of those admissions is also a personal liability problem for him, because civil conspiracy claims do not just attach to the spouse who lost the original lawsuit. They attach to anyone who participated in the scheme. So if the court finds that he was part of a coordinated effort to defraud a judgment creditor, he can be held personally responsible too. His income, his accounts, his assets, the very things he was trying to use as a hiding place could become collection targets in their own right. There is a real-world version of this case where both of them walk out of the courthouse owing the same money, and neither of them has the assets to pay it, because all those assets are now under a different name on the title, that name being Cardi B's lawyer's trust account. I also want to take a beat to address the people who are going to come into the comments and say, well, this is all just gossip, you don't know what's really in the file. Listen, I know exactly what I know and I know exactly what I don't know. What I do know is what is on the public docket, what attorneys with their own bar licenses are explaining on the record, and what has already been admitted under oath in earlier depositions. I am not making this up. I am not reading tea leaves. I am repeating, in plain English, what is in court documents that anyone with a Pacer login and $20 to spare can pull up and read for themselves. If you think I am exaggerating, fine, go read it. Bring the receipts back to my comments, and we will discuss. But what you are not going to do is sit there and tell me that the words on a deposition transcript don't mean what they very clearly mean. The husband said the words. The transcript caught the words. The judge will read the words. There is no spinning that. There is no PR pivot for that. There is no Instagram apology that fixes that. The words are the words. I want to do one more pass on the timeline, because I think when you stretch it out, you really see the depth of what was happening. First, the defamation. Years of it. Hundreds of videos. Thousands of comments. Millions of views. A pattern so consistent that the jury didn't have to think very hard. Then the verdict. The $4 million plus. Then the silence that should have come, but didn't. Instead, more videos. More mentions. More content cycling off the same well. Then, while all of that is happening publicly, behind the curtain, the financial choreography starts. The accounts get rearranged. The companies get renamed. The property quietly slips from one name to another. The payroll gets rerouted. Each of these things, by itself, could be explained away. Together, they form a pattern that looks, even to a non-lawyer like me, exactly like what fraud transfer statutes were written to catch. The law has seen this movie before. The law knows what this movie ends with. And the law has tools specifically designed for this exact ending. And here is the brutal little detail that I want to leave with you on the financial side. The legal fees on Cardi's side of this case have been accumulating for years. Years. Every motion, every deposition, every appellate filing, every collection effort, every subpoena, every paralegal hour, every senior partner review. Top-tier defamation lawyers in major cities are not billing $200 an hour. They are billing well into 4 figures an hour, with senior partners pushing higher than that. Multiply that out across multiple years of multiple attorneys. We could very easily be looking at attorneys' fees on Cardi's side that approach or even exceed the original judgment amount. And in many defamation and judgment enforcement contexts, attorneys' fees can be tacked onto the final award. So the $4 million number you keep hearing? That is the floor. That is the basement. By the time interest and fees pile on, the actual amount Tasha K owes could be substantially higher than that. Which means, even if every asset she has gets liquidated, there might still not be enough to pay it all off, and the judgment could follow her for years, which means new income, new ventures, new everything could be garnished as it comes in. It is not just losing what you have. It is losing what you could earn for years to come. Now, am I saying this is 100% guaranteed to happen? No, I am not a fortune teller. I am not a lawyer. I am a person with a calculator and a pattern recognition problem. But I am telling you what I see. And what I see is a defendant who, at every single fork in the road, took the worst possible turn. What I see is a plaintiff who, at every single fork in the road, took the smartest one. And when those two trajectories meet in a courtroom, there is usually only one outcome. And that outcome wears a Birkin to court. So here is my big takeaway. The thing I want you to leave this video with. The thing I want you to put in your group chat tonight. There is a lesson buried in this story, and it is not even really about Tasha K or Cardi B. It is about every single one of us who uses the internet as a microphone. If you spend years building something on a public platform, on a network you do not own, with a brand that lives inside a screen, then every word you say into a camera is also a witness statement. You don't get to be reckless on the internet and protected by the law. Pick one. You only get one. And the people who pick recklessness, without realizing it, are signing affidavits every time they go live. The platform remembers. The screenshots remember. The receipts remember. The court remembers. And eventually, somebody on the other side of the screen, who has gotten tired of being the punchline, walks into a courthouse with all of it. And when that happens, no LLC, no husband's name on a deed, no Bank of America name removal, no rebranded company in a different font, no 30-second name change, is going to save you. The veil gets pierced, the walls come down, the empire dissolves, and the woman you spent years laughing at sits in the front row with her arms crossed. That is where Tasha K is right now, front row of her own undoing, sitting in a courtroom that her own decisions built. And Cardi B, the woman everybody underestimated for the entire run of this saga, the woman who supposedly couldn't possibly be smart enough to outmaneuver someone whose whole job was talking, is the one holding the deed to the whole thing now. The whole thing. The channel, the trademark, the bank accounts, the brand, potentially the house, potentially the future income, potentially the name itself. Imagine spending 6 years online insulting a woman, only to wake up one day and discover that woman now owns the platform you used to do it on. That, right there, is the most expensive sentence in the entire English language, and Tasha K is about to read it out loud in front of a judge. Before I wrap this up, let me hit one more angle that has been sitting in the back of my brain like a splinter. Some of y'all are going to ask, what about the appeal? Surely they will appeal. Surely there is some path through the appellate courts where this all gets undone. So let me speak to that, because I asked the same question. Appeals in cases like this are not a magic reset button. An appeal is not a do-over. An appeal is a very narrow review of whether the trial court made specific legal errors. You do not get to walk into an appellate courtroom and say, well, Judge, I changed my mind about that deposition I gave. You do not get to retract admissions on appeal. You do not get to introduce new evidence on appeal. You get to argue that the law was misapplied, and you get to do it under tight deadlines, with strict page limits, in front of judges who, frankly, have already seen every flavor of this argument before. And if Cardi's team did their job at the trial level, which from where I am sitting they very clearly did, the appellate record is going to be airtight. Appeals are expensive, appeals are slow, and appeals are usually decided against the side that is trying to undo something the trial court got right. Also, while an appeal is happening, the underlying judgment generally does not get paused. There is a thing called a supersedious bond, which is essentially a giant cash bond you have to put up to freeze collection while you appeal. We are talking, in a case of this size, potentially millions of dollars in bond money, posted up front, just to hit pause. If you cannot post the bond, collection moves forward while the appeal grinds on. Which means, in real-world terms, even if Tasha K appealed everything tomorrow morning, the assets could still be getting frozen and seized this afternoon. The appellate court could, eventually, years from now, give her some technical relief. But by then, the channel is gone, the brand is gone, the money is gone, and what is left is a very long opinion that gets read by 3 other lawyers and absolutely no one else. And I want to say one more soft thing, because I am not a heartless person and I am trying to be at least a little fair. There are real human stakes here that I am not pretending do not exist. Whatever I think of Tasha K's choices, she has a family, she has children, she has a life that exists outside of a YouTube thumbnail. The collateral damage of a case like this lands on people who never made any of these decisions. That is the part that makes me genuinely sad, even while I am sitting here telling you that, legally, the writing on the wall could not be more clear. The system is going to do what the system does. And the system did not write itself onto the wall. She typed those words, and her husband co-signed each one in a sworn deposition. So that's where we are. That is the whole picture. That is the part the headlines are not telling you. That is the part the gossip sites are skipping because it is too much paperwork to explain. But you are different. You stayed with me through this whole breakdown. You sat through the corporate veil. You sat through the depositions. You sat through the Georgia property transfer. You sat through the Alex Jones detour. You sat through the receivership talk, the trademark math, the husband's confession parade, and the timeline reconstruction. You are now the most legally informed person at brunch this Sunday, and I expect you to act like it. Drop a comment and tell me what you think. Do you think Cardi takes the channel? Do you think she lets her keep it and just drains the bank? Do you think Tasha K finally settles? Or do you think she runs this all the way to a sheriff at her front door? I want to hear it. The wilder the prediction, the better. And while you're down there, subscribe, because I am not letting go of this story until the gavel comes down. I will see y'all in the next one. Stay petty. Stay informed. Stay subscribed. Tell a friend. Tell the whole group chat. I will catch all of y'all in the very next video. Bye.